All right, Pencil Talk Live. The takeover continues. No flops on the ground, but ladies and gentlemen, we had boots on the ground last weekend. Went semi-viral, but it was important to do so because what's happening down in Troy, Alabama, is groundbreaking stuff. If you're not familiar with the Fun Belt Conference, and this guy right here, he's one of the brightest faces and the brightest futures in college baseball, Mr. Skylar Meade. Coach, how we doing today, sir?
I'm fantastic. You?
Come on, it's another day in paradise, sir. Coach, I got to ask you, the people don't know. I should have recorded early. I didn't know you were going to be this locked and loaded from the jump, but you came well equipped today, sir.
Oh, absolutely. I have, pencil in the ear. I have my 5-year-old's cat in the hat, just in case we have any mic problems. We're set and ready to go, just in case anything goes awry.
You want to talk about a guy that knows it? He stole his kid's cat in the hat pencil for us today, folks. I mean, we're honored is an understatement.
I'm sure I'll get yelled at later on when I get home. That's how it works with my kids.
Hey, man, I've been trying to get Ticonderoga and any pencil company who wants to jump on board. Man, if they finally ever do, we'll make sure to send a care package to your crib and take care of the family. Coach, I want to dive into the baseball side of things just to start. And then I think most people know I like to get off the rails a little bit. But entering your third season, first pitch a week away, how the boys feeling?
Everybody's feeling good. We everybody is chomping at the bit, not just here at Troy, but man, across the country. This is a tough week. This is my 17th year in college coaching. I was in 5 years as a player. It's a weird week. You're trying to, not look ahead. You're trying to be your best, but some guys, you want to take your foot off the gas a little bit. I commend our guys. We had an amazing scrimmage last night. We played 7 innings. It was a 3-0 game. Bases were loaded, no outs. We had a guy wiggle out of it. There's a lot of passion, a lot of juice. And, to me, that's the sign of a good team. We believe we have a really good team. And it's fun to see them compete even 8 days. As yesterday, we'll play another 9 innings today before we really kick it off. But what a great time. I mean, look, I'm sitting here in our RBI club looking out. It's going to be 74 degrees and sunny today. Like, if our guys can't give us effort today, what in the heck are we doing? So we're very fortunate with our weather, fortunate with our facilities. And fortunately, we think we got a really good team that will hopefully get to showcase throughout the 2024 year.
Coach, when we talk about making an impact and an impression early, that's exactly what you've done. Just in your third season, you win 32 year one. You won 40 games a season ago in a really difficult conference. I think college baseball fans alone know that week in and week out in the Sun Belt, it's a gauntlet. Now, I'm so curious, how were you able to almost right away see immediate success down at Troy?
Well, I think first and foremost, and this sounds cliche, but I'm being real with you. You have to have a vision and believe what you're going to do. And we've talked about it with our guys every day since we got hired, July 15 of 2021, how we're going to do it, what it's going to look like when we do it. I use examples that I think are tangible. Like when we got here, the roster had 3 states, Alabama, Georgia, Florida. Within I guess we've been a year and a half, we're up to 20 states. And we have 3 new states coming in next year, and who knows what we'll get in the portal or JUCO this upcoming summer. We made a concerted effort to go nationwide. You look at where our guys are from. You look at just our field. I like to tell people left field's Mississippi, center field's Louisiana, right field's New Jersey. We have North Carolina at first, Cincinnati at second, Baltimore at short, Niceville at third. We got Louisville, Kentucky catching. Like that's just a lineup we could put together right now. And so we wanted to go all over, utilize our contacts, but also understand that Troy's a place when there's been success historically. There's been a lot of junior college players. Obviously the portal is something that's new. We're never going to complain about what's out there. We're going to use it to our advantage. And we feel like we've done a good job on, bringing guys in that maybe make a business decision. And in the end, we think we've created a culture in which guys are going to be the best version of themselves. Baseball's hard, man. Like you've been in it, it, like you got to be comfortable to play your best. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to get after a guy if they don't do something to our standard, but we're in and out. We get on you. It's right. We've moved on. We're going to challenge you. We're going to force you to be, the greatest worker, the greatest teammate, and hopefully the greatest player you can be every day. And I think guys at first probably were like, man, these guys are out of their mind, like how they're harping on the same stuff daily and maybe the way we go about it. I know guys think I'm crazy. I like to go in the outfield and shag before practice and run around. But it's just it's our way of just being real and being genuine. And I was an assistant for 14 years before being a head coach, and I knew this statement I'm about to make before, but it was great to hear it from all the people that were, my mentors, the Dan McDonald's, the Chris Lamonis, who I was fortunate to play for my last year, who both have been, elite head coaches in this sport. And they were like, hey man, just remember this, don't change, So I'm never going to do that. The way that I am, or the way that I talk, or the way that I act is never going to evolve. Maybe how I articulate things and the growth you try to make as a person and a coach certainly has a little bit of slight alterations to it, but who you are at your core or the energy you have, I don't think that can change. And I think that's resonated with our players. And in the end, we've gone out and been able to get great players.
Yeah.
That's not a secret. It's about Jimmy's and Joe's. You gotta have guys, you gotta have dudes. And fortunately we've been able to get some of those. And then this environment has allowed them to elevate even more. Some of them have gone from good to great. Some of the great have gone from great to All-Americans,
Dude, you got me fired up. You got me ready to run through a wall. I'll tell you this though. You're not crazy for doing so. When people ask me, hey, what do you miss most about the game? Obviously, I miss the brotherhood. I think that's why I've kind of surrounded myself in this college baseball space, because I miss those relationships. I think that's what 100% of people would say. From a playing surface, the thing I miss most without question is shagging fly balls during BP. So I'm right there with you, man. It is the number one thing about the sport, I swear.
Well, hey, I like it for just a little extra exercise. I like to make sure I think I still got it. Or, the rest of my staff, which I've such a great staff and guys that, not only are obviously coworkers, quote unquote, but some of my closest friends, we have a good time. They like to make fun of me on all the times. They'll catch me on video diving or doing something that's, outrageous. I'll make sure to get you a couple of those videos so you can get a chuckle out of them. But
please, actually, yeah.
But, you just got to be true to who you are, and hopefully you hope as a coach that spills over in your positive aspects, right? All of us, we have flaws, right? I tell our players, I'm a very impatient person. So there's times when I want to see them make an improvement in 24 hours and not wait 96. Maybe that's a flaw, but you have to embrace your flaws too and just be real with people. But we have a good time doing what we do. Obviously every day is not going to be perfect because in baseball, you don't win every single game, but man, we darn sure come in with I think the right spirit every day. And I think our guys kind of perpetuate that same thing when they showcase what we're about as Troy Trojans.
I love that, man. You got me fired up too in this idea that it is an ever-changing college baseball landscape. I mean, I think what we're learning about the portal and what we're learning about, I think what this is going to look like in the future changes daily. But you mentioned kind of the pit stops in your career, obviously Michigan State, Middle Tennessee, Eastern Illinois, South Carolina for 6, I believe, as a pitching coach before. With the 17th transfer class in the country, I saw you guys done an unbelievable job of bringing in not only really talented guys, but guys that fit your program, fit your culture. I'm curious with some of the boys that I had boots on the ground there last weekend. I've just heard unbelievable things. I'm curious, what is the pitch? When people show up to the ballpark, what do you want them to know about your ball club?
Well, I think first and foremost, I want them to see a physicality. I want us to, when I say this, I know sometimes people take it wrong, but look, the SEC has been the best league in college baseball for a while. I don't think that's a secret. You look at national champions, you look at Omaha, you look at host. We want to look like that. I was fortunate enough from 2018 to 2021 to be in the SEC at University of South Carolina. That's what I want us to look like. Now we're going to have our own brand and our own way of building our team, but what we look like physically and what we try to do from a production standpoint needs to look that way. You mentioned, a class that ranks 17th. Rankings don't win you a single game, right? That is true. But what I do think is exciting is people are recognizing what we're doing. You look at the teams that we're around and those are national brands. We are trying to be a national brand. The way you are a national brand is not by being braggadocious or boasting or being good on social media. You got to have substance to what you do, right? And although we've had substance our first 2 years to maybe get in some of those talks, we have to do it every single year, every single game, every single week, for a long time to be in the same, stratosphere as the teams that we, hope to, be in the same conversations as. But I do think it's a sign of respect. I think some of the accolades that people have thrown to our recruiting. Now, what is the pitch? I mean, first and foremost, I know that we're going to develop guys. We're going to help you develop quickly. We had 2 arms last year that when they were coming in, we knew it was a 1-year deal, and they're like, I want to be as ready as I can be for professional baseball. I've been fortunate enough to coach a lot of guys who are in professional baseball. So Zach Fruit, who, is a guy that jumped over 4 miles an hour, who's actually here right now. He's going to throw a live at 12:45 today to a couple other guys that are here, but went from a 92, 93 touching 5 to last year's first inning of baseball. And at Troy, he's up to 99.3. He made a jump, changed his body. Benny Thompson, who's already in high A with the Angels, is a guy that had Nucleolution numbers for us last year, 53 innings, 98 punch outs, but he walked 56, right? Like, there's things that we're trying to work on with his command, but, he's back here throwing live. These are guys that from Michigan and South Bend, Indiana, came all the way down to Troy, made a business decision, got to experience a lot of wins, experienced a regional, on the precipice of more, and yet they're down here training in their off season. So I think it speaks to, what's kind of going on here. But we need guys that love baseball too. You look at a lot of and I know we're speaking specific to the transfers, but some of our transfers, they're absolute baseball rats. Will Butcher from Charlotte is here like 7 hours a day. Michael Osmond, a D3 transfer from Wittenberg in Ohio. We can't get him to leave the facility. We had to have a meeting on Tuesday. Like, dude, can you not do 7 days a week in the weight room and then shag and then do this and sleds? Like, you got to take a break. Jay Dill, transfer from Clemson, who's always out there trying to get extra reps, do things. He never leaves. And I could go down a list of even more guys. But those guys, they found a place in which that's part of the DNA. And that's no disrespect to any other programs. These guys have all come from great places. But in our program, that really fits. And then some of the comfort that they've found just in perhaps how they're coached, how their teammate relationships are. We're a small town. That's never going to change. You're valued. You're important. People know who you are here, both as players and coaches. But sometimes that's good for the ego too. I come from a fairly big city, in Louisville. The basketball players were recognized, football players were recognized. Until we made a run my senior year in college, baseball players weren't recognized in the city of Louisville, 2 million people. It wasn't necessarily like you were the man. Here at Troy, when you go to Publix, I went to Publix this morning. They're checking me out. Hey, coach. Hey, I'm pretty excited for Doubles Alley at 4:00 next Friday. Hey, I go up to the deli to grab something. Coach, we looking good? That's how it is here in Troy because they love baseball. And I think when kids get on campus, they get to feel that. And we hope that they garner a lot of excitement from that. And unfortunately, it's worked well. We got to keep working our butt off. And I know that we will. But at least there's been a little bit of a claim to what we've done thus far.
I love that small town vibe. I know I've mentioned it twice now, so I need to paint the picture in full. A testament to you. You said you've got guys from Bloomington and Michigan that are coming back, right? A testament to you and your time at South Carolina. You got a group of, I say bandits, I say goofballs, I say idiots, and I say that as a friend of theirs, but guys that may have had a fantasy football wager on the line. They have you call and make the fantasy football draft order. And then moving forward, the loser of said fantasy league, shout out to Joe Satterfield, had to come down to a Troy Inter squad, don the stars and stripes, and sing a beautiful rendition of the national anthem. I know my guys, Jared Bennett, Daniel Lloyd, Parker Coyne, I know they all made the trip, but a testament to you that they wanted to come and see what you're building as well. But you got to walk us through it. You had the boys lined up on the lines. You were game ready 2 weeks in advance. You want to talk about embracing the fun. I talked about it in our 11.7 pod. Embrace the fun, embrace natties. It was the coolest thing I've seen in the college baseball slate this far.
Well, in a moment of fun, you can also get some work done too, right? Like the anthem is important to us here at Troy. As I mentioned to you off this, our chancellor, Dr. Jack Hawkins, is a Vietnam vet, 2 Purple Hearts, an incredible person. We do Military Sunday every Sunday here at Troy. We wear our military hats, military uniforms that were donated to us my first year. It's important. So we need to make sure that we line up and properly show the respect for our country. However, now your words of beautiful, I could perhaps, disagree with on Satterfield's rendition, but we were fortunate enough 2 weeks before the start of a season to have an actual national anthem, not just, the circa day Whitney Houston anthem or whatever people put in there. We actually got to have a human being do it. And so it was really cool to have those 6 guys back, Brandon Jordan, Thomas Farr, you mentioned Bennett and Coyne and Lloyd, and then obviously Satterfield singing it. It's really cool to stay connected to those guys. As I do get older, which I guess that's how the world works. You mentioned that you're 27. I'm 39 now.
Don't look at Coach.
And it's crazy because you don't really feel like as you get older, but that when you do, you get looked at a little bit of a different lens. And so, these guys come and hang out. We worked out, a bunch of us in the morning, and then they came and watched practice and scrimmage. And then we all went to, we have a new restaurant here in Troy called Baumhauer's, this super, large sports bar, TVs everywhere. And like myself, my dad who lives here in Troy, one of my assistants, Ethan, who I coached at Michigan State, my ops guy, Gavin, his wife, Natalie, and then those 6 jabronis, we all went and ate and hung out for hours. And it's just really cool to be able to do that, get in a different world. A lot of those guys, the longest conversations you get to have, aside from maybe the recruiting process, is when you were sitting in bullpens and, talking during games or practices. And so be able to sit there and have it in a different venue is really cool. And man, I couldn't appreciate those guys, more coming back and hanging with us. And obviously some of them got some work too. Thomas Farr threw a bullpen on the field in front of our team the day before. And, Danny Lloyd was, getting his workouts in. And it's just, I don't know. It's just really cool to have those guys do that. And I certainly hope that players still like me as I continue to get older here as I embark on 40 next year.
Don't look it, man. You don't look it. You keep running around that outfield. Someone's going to sign you up, dude. I like it. I know that you mentioned those guys getting workouts in. A 5 a.m. workout. You want to talk about a dedicated bunch. Jared Bennett let me know that, hey, man, he's about his business. Troy's baseball team was getting after it on a Saturday morning. They got into the weight room. Jarrett went with him. I don't know how much lifting he was actually doing, but you mentioned physicality earlier, Coach. And this is a team that hit 100-plus homers last year, stole a ton of bags. It's that perfect blend of speed and power. And we could talk about this offense and the All-Americans littered throughout it. But the physicality piece, Coach, your strength coach's name, Thunder, and it's the Thunderdome.
Oh, yeah.
That's the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life.
So – I'll give you the quick story on here. So our first year, we had a strength coach named Anthony Wood, he's at Alabama now, did a really good job. And so he had this assistant with him who at the time, his name was Hunter, but he didn't talk a lot. He was just kind of in the weeds. And so I didn't know him well. So one day, my recruiting guy, infield guy, offensive guy, Ben Wogemon, he goes up and he's like, "Hey man, what's your name?" And at the time, Hunter he's very South, Southern voice. He's like, "Well, it's Hunter." He didn't really understand what he said. So he's like, "Did you say your name's Thunder?" And he's like, "No, it's Hunter." But essentially what ended up happening is I had heard Thunder said a couple times and I thought he went by Thunder. So one time in front of the team, we were talking about what we were going to do the next day. And I said, we're going to get in the weight room with Anthony and Thunder. And then the guys laughed. And I said, man, maybe I'm getting old. I'm not part of the joke. What's going on here? And then it kind of grew from there. And I certainly didn't come up with the idea, but my naiveness had certainly helped perpetuate it. But Thunder is, we've stuck with it now. He is Thunder. And as you said, we have our power tee at Troy. I know I'm wearing, I think, the script today, but we have our power tee. And after what he, helped us accomplish last year. And I think he's one of the superstars, especially young superstars in the world of strength and conditioning, especially in baseball. I was fortunate enough to be with the godfather of strength and conditioning at South Carolina, Billy Anderson, who's been to Omaha, I think 11 times and is still the best that there is. But Thunder is really good. And the best way you can describe it, and I've told recruits this, and it's not necessarily a sell, it's just reality. You look at great teams and you want to know, how do you have a good weight room, or how are you explosive? How are you powerful? You look at two things. Do you strike people out, and do you hit jacks? Let's be honest. Well, we were top 10 in the country in strikeouts last year, and we were, I think, 15th in home runs. That's all that you need to know. We were 54 home runs our first year. We were 108 last year. We've set a strikeout record my first year, 525. Last year, I think we ended up at 640 or something like that.
642, I think.
642. Yep. So the reality is you got to be big and strong to do that. And while as coaches, it's our job to develop talent, the number one thing in our program is you got to be a strong dude. You got to be a unit. You got to love lifting. And so we're in there, 5 days a week doing our thing. As Bennett, who he gave a decent performance in the weight room. I don't want to slander him too much, but he saw it. We had just a volunteer workout going on that morning, and we have a multitude of guys, freshmen, seniors, juniors. I mean, it's just guys are in there and they love it because they know the benefits that it provides. It's a game changer. And while a lot of people say that they care about the weight room, how do you actually do it? How do you set up? What kind of freedom do you give your strength coach? I think that's imperative. And we're lucky here because Thunder's the real deal. And that's why we make sure we get in the Thunderdome and get after it.
The Thunderdome. Coach, I'm so glad you brought that up. I noticed that as well. But for chicks dig the long balls and you punch people out, we need to put that on the back of a shirt as well. I think we could sell a hell of a lot of them. But I think the prominence of Shane Lewis being kind of a Hauser guy and being on that Golden Spikes, but there's a lot of dudes in that lineup. But the thing that stuck out to me, though, every stop that you've been, and I'm sure you're obviously very well aware, but every school that you've made a pit stop at and coached, you've broken a strikeout record. You broke it in your first season at Troy, the school strikeout record, and then you did it again last year. You mentioned the importance of power and explosiveness, but I think there's that mentality of just Coach Meade's got that dog a little bit. I'm curious, what are those conversations like with your arms? And is it really important to be like, yo, I want to have nasty stuff. Every pitch is a strikeout pitch because you've done it at every school. You've broken a school strikeout record at every stop along the way.
I think there's a couple of layers to that answer. I mean, number one, I think that we've always made it a goal to find our best delivery for our guys. And I think when you have your best delivery, the ball comes out the best. I know that's not really exciting. People in the social media world maybe don't find that as appealing as, hey, do you do this or that or this plot? No, to me, find your best delivery. And we do that, and we emphasize our throwing. Number two, I think that, in our system, the way that we work on breaking ball development, how do we throw our breaking ball harder? How do we, work on increasing the tilt, the angle, the spin? That's something that we have a lot of different ways we attack. We don't just sit there and say someone doesn't throw a breaking ball that we like, let's just slander it. We get to work on it. And that's something that we've always done. And then the third part, and I think this is something that you can never maybe fully describe in a 2-minute or 5-minute window, but it is mentality. We don't talk about hey, let's go strike a lot of people out because that'd be fun and we get in some record books. A, you need to be able to do it, but B, the way that you present yourself, it allows for a lot of those things. I think back to my first year as a coach. I was 22 years old. I was at Eastern Illinois. I was months out of playing in Omaha, and I had a lot of freedom. I was 22. I was coaching guys that were the same age as me. And I remember having a conversation with our guys talking about, hey, man, you guys, I cannot stand the way you stand. They were slouch shoulder guys. They didn't really think that they were good. They didn't really respect what kind of talent some of them ended up having. And we did a practice where I made them go out to the mound and simulate striking someone. There's no ball. Just throw a dummy, act like you threw a pitch. And I want you to strut off the mound and act like you own it, And these guys they didn't really like it at first. They thought it was kind of hokey. But once they started doing it and kind of understanding hey, man, A, this guy's dead serious. But B, you know what? how I present myself as the person that stands on the mound. I say this a lot and people get offended by it, but I don't care. Pitching is so much about bravado. Can you stand on the mound? People don't come to the park. I love our right fielders. We have good right fielders, right? But they don't come to the park to stare at the right fielder. They're staring at the guy on the mound. So can you have the ability to stand out there, to handle that, to handle all eyes on you, to have all of that, even though I don't think it's pressure, but have that weight on you that what's about to happen truly is that you're doing, right? But the success is there at the end of that carrot too, potentially. Can you handle that? Can you carry yourself right? Can your teammates have your back because they feel like you are going to find a way to get through this? However that may be, strikeout, pop up, weak ground ball, whatever the case may be. So we talk about that on a daily basis. We show them videos when they don't act the way that we want. We show them the videos when they act the way we want. And so I do believe there's a lot of ways that we've, gotten to be very good and consistently good at striking people out. But for us, and I really mean this, it's not like we sit in meetings or in the bullpen and go, all right, guys, here's the keys to our strikeouts today, right? Look, at different places, had some arms that were good, had some arms that were unique. The Zach Curtis's that led the country in strikeouts at Middle Tennessee in 14 was a 5'9" lefty who ended up pitching in the big leagues. Dakota Mekas, who did it in 16 at Michigan State, was 6'7", 280 pounds, right? Like there's different body types that have led to it. Benny Thompson, who with a couple more innings last year would have led the country. He's 5'10", 225 pounds. So it's different body types, it's different repertoires, but I think the mentality ends up prevailing, and hopefully we can continue to do that. And I see no reason that we will not.
Man, you had me with the drill, with the strut off the mound. I call it pitcher swag, call it nuts on the rubber. Like there is something to be said about a guy that just takes the mound and goes, "This is my fucking game now." Excuse my language. Like, this is it. I'm curious. You've coached. You had 3 guys last year end up on big league rosters. Getting drafted off y'all's team. But I think I saw like 28 dudes in the first 10 rounds you've coached drafted. So I won't isolate and ostracize any of them. Is there a guy that stands out? Like you pitched in Omaha yourself at Louisville. I'm curious, like where did you gain that kind of composure and confidence on the bump? Was there a dude that stands out maybe all time that's got the utmost like pitcher swag?
It's funny. No one that will listen to our talk here today will know this guy. But when I was young, and I was a young high school kid, I was 13 when I started high school. I was 16 as a senior. When I was a freshman, there was a guy named Michael Gardner. He made it to AAA, played at Louisville and Miami of Ohio, multi-arm slot guy. And he was a really cocky dude. And as a 13-year-old freshman, he was an 18-year-old senior, and interacting with him, and I'm fortunate enough to at times be on a field with him. I remember watching, and I just remember the way everyone looked at him and revered him and thought of him. And, I as a young kid, obviously, like most of us were very successful as baseball players. That's how you end up being a college, player or whatever, or professional for whatever people's case is. But Michael Gardner was a guy for me that I just remember seeing the things that he would do and the way he carried himself, and then the swagger wasn't the word back then in 1998, but like I just remember being like enamored by him. I remember watching him face Chris Burke. Chris Burke was a Louisville guy, Louisville St. X, and just like watching the battle, and I'm just going, man, this guy is like, I want people to look at me like that. I hope that they do, And so I've been fortunate to coach a lot of guys that have a lot of those same characteristics, but as a young player, a young athlete, he was a guy that stuck out to me, and one that, you go, yeah, you can feel how players in the dugout and in the stands, that feeling.
Oh, it's contagious. And it's so funny you mentioned that too, because you're right. I didn't know the name, but I can rattle off names like that. Like I grew up a huge Houston Astros fan, which I know rubs people the wrong way, but I idolized those guys forever. And then right around 13, 14, when I was in middle school playing B team baseball, there were guys on that varsity baseball team that I was like, they touch everything they touch turns to gold. Like a Drew Sisko and Connor Bright, who were both on those South Carolina national championship teams back in 10 and 11. And I was like, that's the greatest player in the world. And it's so funny how you'll be able to rattle those names off forever because they make such an impression at such a young age. And then I could say the same thing, like my sophomore, junior year, when I really fell in love with actually college baseball. And it was those, those Carolina National Championships teams too. And it was guys that I watched do it from the high school ranks. And it's so funny how like the game is such a romantic piece to it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I could sit here and, you even think of guys. Do you know the name Brad Sullivan? Played at Houston.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Big time.
He overcame a really bad car wreck. I think he was National Pitcher of the Year, maybe 2003. I remember going into Houston as a freshman in college, and you're like, wait, is this guy 14-1? Like, I think he ended up going 15-1 that year, and you're watching him and he doesn't look special. He looks kind of normal.
Yeah.
But what I always remember, we got second and third in the first inning, and it was like everyone's going, he's not that good. And next thing you know, it's 3 punch outs. But to tell you, when you think people have a special mojo, a special hooju, whatever phrase you like, I remember the guy, this was like game 50 of the year, and I remember they started him at second base the next day. And you're like, wait a second, is that Sullivan at second base? Like, he doesn't play a position.
Yeah.
And they were like, he's the best player. He's a winner. Let's just get him on the field, And I know a lot of people remember Houston Street doing that as a closer and playing third, and his numbers weren't great as an offensive player, but Augie Garrido kind of finding ways just to get the best players in there because they felt like they had that magic potion. And so I think that magic potion piece is the part that we have a lot of analytics, we have a lot of eyes, we have a lot of cameras, but it's like that special thing. You kind of know it when you see it, and when maybe someone doesn't have it either, but golly, when someone's got it, you'd love to get a little sprinkle of it.
A little taste. It's so funny. Looking at y'all squad too, man, you got a lot of those special pieces. I know Grayson Stewart was the preseason Fun Belt Pitcher of the Year. Noah Manning. I also have to ask you this about Manning because he was nasty out of the back end, which I think takes a different kind of like psyche and dude as well. But where's the Ringer nickname from?
The guys, somehow it like kind of went on. I think it was like a thing where the guys just hanging out and stuff like that. I don't know how it came through. We thought initially, is that from a movie or whatever?
Yeah.
We don't totally know, but it just stuck. And the reason it stuck for him, whatever his nickname could have been, I mean, you could fill in the blank with any nickname, but as a kid, it's one of the coolest stories. I'm going to be, actually, for me, it's the coolest story ever. People may not realize he had a 15+ ERA his sophomore year at Iowa Western. He had a 16 ERA in the Northwoods. He was an over-the-top right-hander, stock, 87, 90, 91. And he came in the beginning of his fall, and we were like, hey, look, you need to make some alterations, but we'll let you go for a couple weeks. Well, it didn't go well. And we just, we said, hey, let's try this. Let's try it. We're going to do a bunch with these ground balls, double plays. We got to move your arm so the ball moves. And he quickly gravitated to it. We used to tell him, hey, man, he's a little bit of a quirky guy. We tell him to get weirder, get weirder with your arm. And the guy's arm went from 6 feet to 3'11" as the release height. And I'll give you a great stat that isn't really necessarily public, but I'll say it on here. He has the sharpest angle into the zone. So the horizontal angle of his fastball, it's the sharpest in all of college baseball via TrackMan. And he loves to compete. He loves to post. He loves to take the baseball. And he's a great kid. It is one of the all-time great stories, selfishly, as a coach, that I've ever seen on a guy reinventing himself, buying into change and alteration, and then in turn having tons of success. I mean, obviously, I hope he has the most amazing year. I hope he throws 45 games and has 20 saves. Who knows what will happen? He was incredible again yesterday. He was incredible Monday. He always shows up. But what I think is just so cool is I got to be next to him at our media day on Tuesday when he found out he was a preseason All-American. And you talk about a kid you watch somebody have that pause like, I'm what? Like, it was really, really cool to see. And I'm very happy for him. Obviously, I'm happy for us that he's on our team. But, yeah, man, the Ring is a great kid and just a great college baseball story.
We got to get the ring, Dude, that gave me goosebumps. Because everyone's had those moments of trials and tribulations because the sport is just that damn shitty sometimes. But after like a 16 and then a 17 in summer baseball, where summer baseball is already wearing you down mentally, maybe to your last kind of fiber, he's sitting in that pen going, man, is this for me? And then to have a moment of realization, like, man, it paid off, right? Now maybe we see the ring with a different edge this spring. Let's go.
I'm telling you, well, the way he looked yesterday, I need to bottle that up. It made me feel very nice. I can tell you that much.
I like it. All right. I want to keep bragging to the guys, but I want to brag on you too. I mentioned earlier the fantasy football draft that you guys had. Number 9 in the draft, you ranked very high. You didn't want to give him a good pick. Parker Coyne shaved the mustache off. I've been told you're a big stash guy. I'm growing because I'm so for the brand, as you are as well, by the way. It still gives me goosebumps. You showed up with 2 pencils. I'm growing a pencil stash right now. It's not good, but I'm trying my best. Fan of the mustache, sir?
Yes. My wife isn't as much of a fan. My work right here, we'll be rounding into shape come season time. Last year in May, it was an important May for us, like it is for everybody in college baseball. But, a couple of our guys had said, hey, we're going stash, like we're going all in on our stashes. And Mason Kinney, who's a GA for us now, I vividly remember him going, hey, coach, you going to get in? And I go, you guys think you need it? And they're like, I think it pushed us over the edge. And so I went all in. So and what I find absolutely hilarious, Montgomery, which is, 45, 50 minutes up the road. Obviously they're a major city, have multiple news channels and all that. And I find it hilarious that every time they put a picture of myself or whatever, it's like they're always using the pictures with the full stash. My wife is so like flabbergasted by it, but yeah, I got to keep going with it. I don't think it's as bad a look as I once thought. I used to see pictures of my dad back in the late 70s, and I thought it was hideous. But maybe he was onto something ahead of his time.
It's making a run. The boys played well last May, so there's a little bit of good juju in there, and I'm with it. I can't grow it.
Yours is looking good now. Like, let's not disrespect it. I mean, this is why we're doing a StreamYard. A StreamYard or Zoom, if you will. Like, we get to see how real that thing is. It's very, very impressive. Mine is a little blocked by the shadowing in the Troy RBI club, but hopefully it'll be ready for opening day next week.
Well, Coach, here's the deal. I say it because I mean it. I'm easily bribed. People mess with me all the time that I'm too over the top, but I also am over the top in a college baseball analyst position on TV because I was not a good college baseball player. I know how difficult it is. So when I see something unbelievable, I call it for what I see it. But I am easily bribed. But I have been put on the record, and I'm not putting any lofty expectations that I'm sure the people at Publix who saw you at Troy, Alabama did it. But every 8 years, a mid-major team wins the Natty, and you guys, you show up with 2 pencils today. You guys are my guys. Like, I'm riding the boys all the way to Omaha this year, so buckle up. We're ready to rumble. The mustache has got some good juju.
Hey, listen, I'll do anything for us to win as many games as possible. So if that meant the next 60 years of my life I'm rocking a bad mustache, then a lot of people are going to have to live with it because we'll do whatever it takes within the rules to win, and there's nothing against the mustache.
Heck no. Yeah, just suave shit. That's all. Just a lot of suave, good looking dudes. All right. You mentioned it. This is our Ted Lasso powered by StreamYard question of our pod. First concert that you ever went to, best concert you ever went to. We're giving the fans of Troy a little behind the scenes look into their head coach.
All right. So I'm going to answer this 2 ways. It was sort of a concert when I was in Louisville as a sophomore. Remember the group Nappy Roots?
Oh, yeah.
So Nappy Roots had done a kind of like impromptu free concert at the football stadium at Papa John's Cardinal Stadium at the time. But I don't want to call that a real concert because it was, it was just for like students and it was kind of a impromptu thing. The first real concert I went to, and it's ironic because we opened up with SIUE, which is coached by Sean Lyons, who I worked with my first job at EIU, but he's the head coach at SIUE. Myself, Sean Lyons, and a former coach and former national champion at Cal State Fullerton, Tim Dixon. We went and saw Maroon 5 in concert in Peoria, Illinois in the fall of 2009. And so those early Maroon 5 albums were pretty darn good. And so it was a very impressive concert. And, yeah, it's why to this day I got a nice little soft spot for Maroon 5.
Dude, they had us crying in the club early on. I think I was like in middle school when those albums were coming out, and it made me like feel things. I was like, these guys are too good.
Yeah, they did a very good job with that. They were able to pull you a lot of different ways mentally.
I like it. All right, you mentioned it. An on-campus concert at Louisville. You're a big Louisville guy. I went back and forth, and I'm starting this Mount Rushmore-esque segment. I really, to be quite honest with you, I planned two things for our interview today. I'm a college baseball junkie, so I knew your background. But my main question I had to ask you, because I know you're passionate about your Cards. Not a Mount Rushmore, but if you had a weekend rotation of iconic Louisville Cardinals, right? So a Friday, a Saturday, a Sunday, and a back-end bully, a closer. Who are your four most iconic Louisville guys of all time?
It's easy.
Oh,
so on Friday, I'm going with my boy Lamar. Everybody gets tired of hearing it, but I was on Lamar before the world was on Lamar, so that's my guy. He's on Fridays. I'm going with Teddy Bridgewater, recently retired on Saturday.
Teddy Two Gloves.
Best guy ever, Teddy Two Gloves, just an awesome person. Now, Sunday, not as many people will know, but this was my childhood. Like everything I did in the sport of basketball came off him, was DeJuan Wheat. He's going to be my Sunday guy. Played in the NBA a little bit, All-American there from 93 to 97 at Louisville. And then I didn't get to watch this guy play in college. I was not born yet, but Dr. Duncanstein, Darrell Griffith, my dad's favorite player, national player of the year, played in the NBA for 12 years for the Jazz, was the number 2 pick. Homegrown Louisville guy, went to Louisville Male High School. They used to tell a story, which as a kid, I didn't know that there was a little bit of joke in this, but he had a 45-inch vertical leap. They used to say that he could jump to the top of the backboard. He could steal your quarter and leave you 2 dimes and a nickel. So that would be my Mount Rushmore. Pretty easy for me. I have a lot that I loved as a kid and obviously even as an adult, but give me those 4 and we're taking anybody on. And hey, no disrespect to Johnny Unitas and Wes Unseld and all of these other greats, but give me those 4 and I'm going to be happy.
Reached into the bag. That was quick and easy. Usually there's usually trepidation added. Where do I get? No doubt about it. I like the statement on Friday too. I'm a big Lamar guy. You want to talk about betting on yourself? No agent makes it happen last year, has an unreal season. We do have a good buddy of ours who is a huge Ravens fan, but a Lamar hater. I need you to talk him out of it and maybe talk some sense into him real quick because I'm the biggest Lamar guy on the planet.
Listen, I've been dealing with Lamar hate for 9 years. The guy he and Patrick Mahomes are the face of the NFL. The guy has transformed his skill set. He does no commercials. He's focused. He's an amazing person. He's about winning. I love that we live in the day and age where if we act like there's only one successful person in the world, the one that wins, and then we over criticize everybody else. Has he been great in the playoffs all the time? No. Does he own it? Heck yeah. And he's only been in the league 6 years. You look at a John Elway, he's an all-time great, a top 3, top 4 quarterback forever. Well, he didn't win his first one until he was 38 years old. So it happens at different pace for people. You can't deny he's one of the greatest, I think one of the greatest talents to ever play the sport, let alone the quarterback position. So yeah, was I hurting when he lost their game the other day? You're right. I've had trouble watching sports. We'll hold our annual Super Bowl party on Sunday, and my focus will be incredibly distracted, more having fun than watching the game. But if you hate on Lamar, then I feel like you're just kind of a hater. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, him winning his second MVP last night, I made sure to stay up and watch that. And if you watch him talk last night and you're a hater, just watch. The guy was annoyed. He knew that, hey, his work wasn't done. They didn't win it all. So he didn't get up there and rant and ramble. He said, thank you. He thanked all the other people and he moved on. So he's already focused for what 2024 and 2025 has in store.
I'm all in. He's a beast, man. I think when you talk about his career too, like we forget that he's so young. He's so insanely young. Like there's college quarterbacks that are actually his age, and it's
There is, with all these ninth year seniors running around. There's no doubt.
I was kind of to blame to that. I was one of those super seniors that held on for dear life. I was a cockroach in college baseball. I could not die. It was awesome. So yeah, I was part of the blame for the log jam that we're experiencing in the landscape. That's a fun question for you. It kind of leads into it. Not to get like all serious again, but I'm curious your thoughts on a guy that we told you maybe the most successful pitching coach in the country to go in and freaking break strikeout records every year, and now obviously first time head coach. I'm curious your thoughts on today's college baseball landscape and how it exists, and how we mentioned earlier it's ever changing, but your thoughts on it, and maybe if you were to lay down, not the law, but like lay down some structures to kind of corral it in a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good question. I know I was listening to you when you were talking to Tony V the other day, and he was talking about just the popularity of college baseball, and I don't think it's ever been hotter, right? I think that TV has certainly helped that. I think college baseball has really resonated on social media. People like yourself that promote the brand and are promoting a lot of teams too. You talk about the Fun Belt. Like, look, the Fun Belt's really fun, I think, for people to talk about and cover, but it's also fun because it's a top 5 league in the country. Like it has, 4 to 6, 7 teams that are, could be in the mix for the NCAA tournament on a year in, year out basis. But I think to me, like, yeah, I know we're in this mode where there's a lot of older guys, maybe guys that somehow continue to get extra years. And while I think some of it's a little bit ridiculous at times, this kind of COVID blending to post-COVID world, I think to me, the thing that we need to continue to do in college baseball, obviously there's some things from a financial or scholarship backing that need to continue to change. I know this podcast isn't the one that's going to make it change, but the fact that we're still at 11.7 with the money coming in and the notoriety and stuff like that is a little bit laughable if we're being honest. I think it's only going to help us get in the door of, we don't need our sport to become elitist and be a sport that's all about what kind of money do you have growing up. We need to be able to get in a variety of communities. We need to have, people that come from money, come from no money, mid-range, right? We need the opportunity to do that. Scholarships do help with that. But I also think in the promotion of the game, I think we need to continue to think outside the box. I think getting access to people, right? What we're doing gives us, hey, people might come on here and they may go, maybe I don't vibe with that guy, or I don't know about their program, but guess what? They at least get to make a decision. Right. Getting that personal touch that I think you get to see a lot of times. You look at watch College Game Day, right? They always do like behind the scenes or a personal piece with maybe one of the teams going on or something going on in the country. We need more of that. There's great stories. There's human interest stories going on out there. There's teams that are fun to watch. You look at what Ole Miss has done with the season. Why is Ole Miss a place a lot of people grow up wanting to go? It's not just because it's a team in the SEC. It's because people resonate. I spoke to we had our women's clinic last week. I had a lady come up to me and say her son's always dreamt of playing at Ole Miss because he's been watching the season for the last 7 years. Access, right. I don't know if this will ever help us win a game, but like for me, anybody that wants to come and see us or video us or promote our product, I am open to the chaos because I want our guys to feel special. I want college baseball to be special to any and everyone. And so I think that's the way to continue to make this thing even greater than it already is. I know the passion's out there by the numbers you see in Omaha. You look at the TV numbers. But we got to keep pushing. The time is now to strike with that. And so, the more people get maybe that, insider lens to it, I think the better.
Man, I'll tell you this. You're one of the brightest coaches in college baseball because of obviously what you've done on the field. But I'd make an argument it's because of what you just said. I'm in the same position, and what you said was super kind on my end. And I think that there is this giant window right? I was shocked when I went out to Omaha by the lack of coverage. Like, I was like, this is the granddaddy of them all. Like, this was my dream to come in and witness this. Luckily I was able to pester and annoy the right amount of people to finally get credentialed. And they let some crazy guy with a pair of flops, a pencil, and a dream. But I was, man, there are people doing it, right? But we're not funneling and we're not monetizing and rewarding these guys for telling these stories. And that's all I'm trying to do. My dream that you mentioned, and I don't even know if you know this, I think I may have mentioned it on one of my last podcasts, but my dream is to do college game day for college baseball. There is no reason with the characters involved in this sport that it wouldn't resonate with anybody, whether you like baseball or not. And that's my point. Like, I played 6 years of college baseball. Like, you think I loved every midweek? No, of course not. Like, you think I loved like the Savage of Sunday no, of course not. But what relates and resonates is the absolute hilarious individuals that lie in that locker room, the tales of adversity that you face that resonate in the everyday world. So for me to learn, to grow, to share stories, I have to learn to tell the stories a little bit better. And that's a dream, right? So to be able to have the opportunity to come talk your program that's growing and getting better year in and year out, is an honor for me. So I appreciate you letting me come help tell the story, because I'm going to make it happen. We're manifesting. We're saying out loud. I will be on your campus. We will do a college game day set. We'll have Jarrett Bennett throw on a crazy mascot head. Like, I'm telling you, it's coming. I can feel it. Because you're right, the game is growing. But with that being said, like, just because it's growing, like, we're still at a place where only 11-7 scholarships. And I'm so thankful that the 11-7 guys have brought me on, but not even 12 guys are getting. I mean, the scholarship thing is so wild to me, but to your point, we were at a really interesting place where, all right, cool. You want to see it grow? What is growing? Well, now let's treat it like a sport that's growing,
Absolutely. Well, and I say this to you, not just because we're on here together, but I think the key too is you got to find people that are genuine in what they're doing, and your personality, I'm sure it's why you and Jared are friends, right? Like, when people have like a genuine personality and they're not doing something as a shtick, right? They're taking their passion and they're portraying it to other people. You can feel a difference, right? And what you were saying, and while I agree, there's a lot of characters in the world of college baseball. There's some people that want to be characters, right?
Yeah.
But then there's people that actually are, and there's a lot that actually are.
Right.
And those are the ones that can help you elevate the notoriety and things of that nature. We talked about this before we got on, but it's like you said when you were in Omaha, right? Like, I saw the video when Tommy White and you had the pencil, and it's like, I don't know Tommy White. I know he's a heck of a player, but you talk about a guy that was able to flip the script real quick and take the pencil and just kind of do his thing. And it resonates. That's why people remember the video, because it was genuine. It didn't feel spoofy or sticky. It was like, hey, this is my thing. I do it. And then the kid had the personality to do it in his way. And so we need people like yourself that love it, but also, it too. There is an element of baseball, like any sport. It doesn't mean that everyone had to play to speak of it. That's never my point. But I do think an insider knowledge of what it's really like, what the day in, day out is like, I think that just adds to maybe the allure, and I mentioned it, like, I know this is, I'm not doing this as a promotion of it. We did our women's clinic last week. Did I come up with the idea of women's clinic? No, we started doing, those were going on in South Carolina when I got there and long before I'd ever been there. But what a great idea. Get women who don't get access to locker room, to what's a scouting report? Tell me the difference in a curveball and a slider. But when you get a lot of women there, you get their husbands, right? You add people. We had 67 women at our clinic this year. We had 43 the year before. But think about it. That touches way more people than just those individualized women too. And so people got to think outside the box. And I think the more people that do that, the better it's going to be for our game.
Yeah, without question. And it's why, there are stories to be said. You've got a long snapper That's a two-way guy that's going to be a superstar on the diamond. That's a story that needs to be told, right? Like, and I'll tell you this, not to get all sappy, but you can pay me the nicest compliment that I could ever receive. You can't fake authentic, and I've told myself that, and I've made sure to tell my people around me to go, man, if this ever comes off as shticky, as you mentioned, or like I'm not a social media guy, I think it's a fake place. But if my dream is to get into a booth and broadcast college baseball, well, social media has allowed the opportunity for everyone to be able to tell a story. Well, I got to make sure that I'm maximizing and learning, just like when we played, right? I wasn't a great player, but I loved the process of it. That's why I love like this broadcasting piece, because there is process in learning to tell a story, and you have to tell the story of the two-way long snapper that's grinding on and off the gridiron on the field. You know, you've got an All-American, maybe the best hitter in the country, but I want to know about Cole Myers. Like I want to tell these stories, and that's why we're going to talk with him and release him later this week in the Takeover series. So, man, I appreciate you letting me in the door, sir.
Oh, absolutely. No. It's awesome. And yeah, there's a million of them, not just here at Troy. I mean, they're all over our league, all over other leagues. I mean, heck, at different divisions, junior college. I mean, college baseball is a vast enterprise, you know. And so there is no shortage of stories to tell. I could give you a million on here just if you hey, who's that guy and what's his story? Where do I start? Right? You could do that with everybody, and I think people would find it wildly entertaining.
All right. Well, we need to find out a little bit more of your story before I let you go, because I really think I could do this all day. We could probably go another 2 hours, but I know you're a busy man and first pitches in a week, so I won't take up too much of your time. But our last question, brought to you by Hack Attack, powered by StreamYard. How many swings do guys get in a round?
So most of the time we go rounds of 5, but sometimes we'll like on certain days we'll go round of 6.
Okay, round of 6. It'll be a bonus 6 for you, and I've already got the 6th in mind. Personalize it for you a little bit.
I love it.
Goofy, we'll go serious. We'll get behind the scenes. We'll meet the man behind the mirror.
I'm ready.
Who's the greatest pitcher of all time?
I guess you're a little bit. I think the nastiest pitcher is Randy Johnson.
Oh,
I do think the nastiest pitcher is Randy Johnson. I think the greatest pitcher ever is probably Bob Gibson, just based on everything you see and you know and the mentality. I just have to, and you got to give props to people that obviously were before you, you know. It's like when people say Babe Ruth, but I'm going to go Bob Gibson. But man, I've never seen anyone nastier than Randy Johnson. That just makes you uncomfortable to watch.
Terrifying. Yeah. Buzz in the tower with Bob Gibson. That's a good answer. I like that. I like it. I've also been told these are rapid fire, and they're never not so rapid fire, because I always love diving into the answer. So I apologize. When you were at Louisville, you're trotting out of the pen, starting a game. What was your walk up?
Oh, at the end of my career, well, I had two main ones. Stone Cold Steve Austin, glass breaking. But my last one, and I found it to be my best one, was the Degeneration X intro. You know, are you ready? Boom, boom. You know, so. I was a huge wrestling fan, never missed it growing up and into college a little bit. I'm very glad that a lot of the old school wrestling stories are being told so that I can show that to other people, show that to my kids. But yeah, DX intro. I love DX. That was a good time in the wrestling world.
Man, I will give you every dollar I have if you hit a suck it after a big win this year. I'm a big WWE guy as well. I think I vicariously lived through my little brother, almost like, you know, like the Santa thing. Like I was like in the 8th grade. My brother was 6, so I still got Santa too. Same thing with WWE. I got to enjoy WWE all the way through, and I still am a huge fan. Do you have a favorite wrestler of all time?
My favorite. So I think the greatest of all time is the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
Good one.
But
Sweet music.
Nobody entertained me. Nobody entertained me more than Stone Cold. He was just, I don't know. He wasn't the greatest wrestler by any means, but it's entertainment, and he provided that.
Dude, 2 WWE walk-ups. I thought I couldn't love you more, Coach. You've charmed me. I'm all the way. You showed up on the pod with pencils and we're leaving with WWE. See how they're not so rapid fire? We completely went down another rabbit hole. All right. Yeah. Go-to post-game meal for the Trojans. I mean, it's an ideal meal. What's your go-to?
So post-game is Chipotle.
Okay.
Post-game on the road, Chipotle. You know, you want to know my order? You want to know what I get?
Let's do it.
All right, this is easy. I go light white rice, black beans, peppers, double chicken, light sour cream, and then I always ask for a sprinkle of cheese. Done.
Easy. You go extra on the guac.
You know what? I actually don't. Now, if you throw guac on, I'm going to like it, but most time I don't even get it. Don't even need it.
I like that, man. He's a simple guy.
Keep it clean. Keep it clean.
Come on. I like it. All right. I'm on a mission. I brought it up with Coach Fattel as well. They're not jerseys, they're costumes. And I want to know who's got the best costumes in college baseball, Coach.
Best costume.
Not named you guys, obviously, right? Or how about this? 2-part question, because I'm learning as I go as well. The best Trojan costume and then the best costumes in college.
Okay. Well, our first year here, we were able to get we went pinstripe, which had not been done in a long time at Troy. So our Friday night pinstripe, Adidas is one of our sponsors.
Oh, yeah.
Our Friday night pinstripe is a sharp look.
Like it.
Best uniform in college baseball. Now, I do think there's something to be said for the fit and the look of an LSU uniform.
Yeah.
Multitude of colors. I will tell you. Now, I did I as a Louisville person, the one other place I thought was intriguing to me as a kid was Tennessee. And I don't say this to pander to Tony. He knows better than that. But I do think there's something with they're all black with the orange kind of popping out. I think there's something to be said for that. Now people won't like this, but I actually think the green Vanderbilt with some of the American, flag stuff is a pretty darn good look too. So, I know I'm not pinning myself to a number one, but I think those are 3 that stick out to me. But hey, you know what? Trojan pinstripes on Friday nights here at RPF. Maybe they take the cake.
Something special. He said he'd do anything to win a natty this year. What about eye black in the dugout? Would you rock eye black to win a natty?
I will do anything.
I'm all in. I love it. All right, cool. All right, my final bonus question, and I'm gonna let you get out of here. Coach, when you're going to write in a lineup card, you've got studs littered throughout the lineup. A preseason Sun Belt pitcher of the year slated in, I'm sure, on Friday. Coach, I got to ask you, when you're writing that lineup card, do you use a pencil or a pen?
Well, I will give you a quick story. I've started to pre-write it out. I used to just, I never had to write the lineup. You're assistant for 14 years. You watch it done a lot. You might be involved in some stuff, but you watch. There's still a lineup card that Coach Wogamon here keeps very proudly. When I totally butchered my first lineup, it was an unadulterated disaster of this guy. Oh, shoot, I put this in the wrong spot. I put this 6. It was a bad deal. So, I think what I probably should do after that poor performance in the cold night of February of 22, I think going pencil first and then penning or sharpieing, if you will, over top. I know this is pencil talk, not Sharpie talk, but it's been proven to be fairly dangerous for me to go early Sharpie on these lineups, So hopefully maybe year 3, maybe I've rounded into shape on not screwing up the lineup so much. But, hey, I'm still a rookie in this game,
You are a babyface assassin. I got to tell you, I like the tracing it out thing. And here's the deal, man. It is pencil talk. If Sharpie wants to help pay for me to get down to Troy and do some college game day, like I said, easily bribed. I'm just trying to tell some stories. So I'm all in. I like it.
Hey, listen. Hey, they want to throw an investment your way. We can scratch out that pencil talk, and Sharpie talk will be the new fad in college baseball.
We'll make some new hats. It can't be that difficult. We'll be fine. Coach Meade, Troy Trojans, on to some massive things come this spring. Cannot thank you enough, sir.
Oh, I appreciate you having me on. This was a blast.
Heck yeah. Yes, sir. We'll run it back soon.